All right, so good afternoon. This is Flare 2022. I believe this is first in our university, FEU Cavite. So Flare is this is actually a common activity even in other universities. I believe we actually did this back when I was still in college. No, so different organizations held held their own talks, speeches regarding their own interests. So I remember we will have a discussion about specific philosophy topics since I previously belonged to a philosophy organization when I was in college. So that was nice back then. Well, anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna be the speaker, no? So uh, I don't know what's gonna happen in the future, but perhaps maybe later on, maybe in the next years, the students will be the one to hold these Flare talks. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen and my topic for this time is about the gacha game. Oh, so I am a gamer. That's why I chose this topic. I was thinking of maybe using Dota or maybe other MOBA, but uh, a lot of people are playing gacha game. No? So this is not entirely a genre, no, rather this is a mechanics. No? So most people have witnessed this mechanics in different games, and not many people like it. No, apparently most people do not really like it. No, I do not like it too. It's just that in most games, in most uh most games that are using this kind of model are actually the more decent ones, no? So let's start, no? So gacha games, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So this is going to be a philosophical reflection. These are going to be philosophical reflections on the gaming mechanic gacha. So of course we're gonna define gacha later on. If you are here, if you are watching this, I believe you are familiar with the word because you wouldn't be here if you're not familiar with the gacha. No? So anyway, so in this case, we're gonna discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's start. No? So of course I play these games. No? I played a lot of games. No? So um starting when? No? Starting after since high school, I believe. Since high school. Um first year. So first year high school, I started playing I I I did not really play Ragnarok when it was in its heyday, you know. But after that, after after the rise of Ragnarok, that was the time when I really started to play because Ragnarok uh, had its peak when I was still in elementary, and when I was still in elementary, I had no idea about these games that are existing in the computer shops. So when I reached high school, I started to play some games like Run Online. Actually, Dota. No, Dota is the first one that I actually played. No, of course, aside from the pinball, the simple pinball or what, Dota is the first one that I really played. And so it eventually proceeded to me playing Run Online, Rose Online, um, what more? Rakion, no? Specifically, that one I really like it, Rakion, because it's action packed. But anyway, so I believe you are not familiar in those things because of the generation. So maybe some of you are familiar quite a bit. But I still play today, obviously. So right now, I do play these games. Path of Exile, Genshin Impact, NBA 2K, and right now I'm playing 21, and Pokemon Go actually, and some random gacha games. So I played every games from MMORPG, those are Run Online, Rose Online. MMORPG means multi. Wait, what is MM? It just means that many people are playing it. Multi something online role playing game. No, so it's basically RPG. we do know RPG. You have your own adventure. This originated from the Dungeons and Dragons, wherein you have your own character, and then you go to an adventure, and then you fight some monsters. You progress through the story, such and such. It's the idea behind RPG, a role-playing game. And as you may notice, there are other things here with RPG, SRPG, ARPG. Anyway, MMORPG is that RPG wherein there's a lot of people. So we're talking about World of Warcraft. We're talking about um what are the recent MMOs. We're talking about Black Desert Online. Yeah, I remember that. I played that for maybe 3 hours, 2 hours. Yeah, FPS. I believe a lot of people are playing FPS. FPS are first person shooting. So FPS games, as we call it. Of course, it started with Counter Strike, CS, and right now, Counter Strike is actually repopularized as CS:GO. But there are other games that have come up, like of course Call of Duty right now is quite famous, and of course it has developed because MOBA has MOBA has become a thing. Dota started it all from the Frozen Throne, the expansion of Warcraft 3. So MOBA came to its own, and then MOBA, by the way, it's defending your own base, fighting the enemy, such and such. MOBA and FPS apparently have fused into each other because, well, both are interesting. And right now we do have, I don't know if people are still playing Overwatch, but a lot of people are playing Valorant, no? So FPS. Valorant is actually a fusion between FPS and MOBA, no? I would say, no? Anyway, as RPG, these are, I don't know if there are other meanings for it, but for me, SRPG uh single role playing game. No? So you play your own, no? So some examples, of course, Dark Souls, no? It's just you. Elden Ring is kind of similar, but Elden Ring, I believe, has co-op now. So it's kind of revolutionary when it comes to those genre of games. So co-op now exists. ARPG, these are action RPG. Basically, these are just RPGs with a lot of movements. Most most RPGs are actually turn-based. Final Fantasy series, most Final Fantasy series, I believe all games in the genre in the series are turn-based. I'm not sure, but RPG is kind of opposite. Path of Exile is an example of an ARPG. So action RPG is jam-packed with a lot of movements, a lot of button mashing. I don't know. Anyway, and others are rhythm games. No, some people are actually very interested in rhythm games. I'm also interested in rhythm games. The first one I played was Auto Jam. Of course, this is way back. Right now, I'm playing Beat Stars. No, Beat Stars is in mobile. No, it's one of the decent rhythm games out there right now. But anyway, so I do play a lot. No? So the longest time played the mobile games that are the longest time that I have played are this. No? One is Treasure Cruise, another Eden, Dissidia, Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, and Guardian Tales. These have certain connection with me. I am a really big fan of One Piece. So back then I was really looking for a game that's connected to One Piece. And so I played it. And then there's another thing, another Eden. At one point in my life, I was itching to play uh the old JRPG. By the way, that's another RPG. JRPG, that means Japanese RPG, because the Japanese do tend to have a certain unique model for RPGs, and this is typical for Final Fantasy, Bravely Default. Right now, some of the popular ones are Octopath Traveler, etc., etc. And there's something similarity with all of the games coming from Japan. That's why we do call them now JRPG. And another Eden is a very nice feeling of JRPG. Although of course this is a gacha game, no? So this CD Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, basically, if you are familiar with the Final Fantasy series, the Cydia series is an accumulation, a combination of different Final Fantasy games coming into one. So as a Final Fantasy fan, it's actually really nice this idea, and it's a gacha game, so that's another plus, no? And Guardian Tales among the gacha games out there has one of the best story, and actually one of the best gameplay actually, no? And some notables, these are actually decent, but I didn't play them that much. Like Epic 7, I think I played this for a month and then I quit. And then I came back again for 1 day, for 2 days, whatever. Because it's decent. I just don't like its progression. Arc Knights is actually nice because it's a tower defense gacha. So if you're itching to play a tower defense, go try Arc Knights because it's really good. Fire Emblem Heroes, I'm a big fan of Fire Emblem way back, even from a Game Boy or what. So I really like Fire Emblem Heroes. So I tend to visit it every once in a while. And Grand Blue Fantasy, the OG, you know. We will also look at Grand Blue Fantasy later on because um, there was an issue with Grand Blue Fantasy, and with that issue, there was an actual progress with the game design of the gacha games. Um, because it's not really good. No? It's really bad. That's what I said earlier. The mechanics of gacha, not many people like it. No, they don't really like it. So let's continue. No, okay. So what do you mean by gacha game? Well, this is the origin for it, as you will see in the photo here. This is a gashapon. That's why some people actually pronounce gacha game as gasha game. Well, I just got used to pronouncing it gacha, no? But gasha, I don't know, maybe it's more correct. But because it originated with gasha pon. So what is a gashapon? As if you are going to certain carnivals or certain whatever quantum or time zone, you will probably something like this. You will probably see something like this, or maybe not. Maybe what you will see are those with stuffed toy, and then you have to use a claw or something. That's also very much similar. But in here, you will definitely get something. But what you will get is something random. As you will see, the balls are the walls of the balls are opaque, so you cannot see inside. So what you are gonna get is random. So some are getting something decent from here, and some are not. So it's you need a bit of luck, no? And these kinds of things are actually quite famous in Japan, and actually, no, in general, no, because this exemplifies certain sense of gambling. Gambling is very much prevalent in Japan. If you are not familiar with it, the pachinko thing or something, no? So it's very much prevalent in Japan. So a lot of gamers do think that if we say gacha game, the first thing that they'll say that the gacha game is something like this, anime waifu or anime husband to game or what. But that is I believe that's a misnomer. Of course, most of those that they are saying are actual gacha games, but I believe that the notion of gacha in games is much wider. Although of course the origin is Japanese, it's not necessarily Japanese now. I would claim that when we find something like this, when you really need to do a random pulling by the way is something like this. No? You are pulling something, you're pulling characters, you are pulling items. So and it's random. So pulling is the gamer term for getting something. Uh, yeah, no. So random pulling, loot box, surprise mechanics, these are apparently widely incorporated in most games right now. And I would say those are gacha mechanics. Those are gacha mechanics. Some people are thinking that gacha mechanics only applies to those anime games or what, but not necessary. So gacha is an aspect. So this is an aspect that exists even in every other genres. Um, Most would say that gacha game itself is a genre. Yes, it's a genre in itself, but the mechanics of gacha is actually quite dominant in most games right now, no? So it exists in every other genres like MMO, FPS, even in MOBAs, no? Um, the gacha mechanics is actually because it's actually quite profitable. No? That is probably the reason. Gacha game mechanics is profitable for the publishers, for the developers. That could be the reason why some games are having this. But anyway, let's continue. So so these are some examples, no? Like what I was saying earlier. The gacha mechanics is prevalent in other games, no? Some non-gacha mechanics in other games, they're saying that those are not gacha, but they're actually gacha, no? So, like for example, no, we do have here in Dota, no? I'm not familiar with other MOBAs, no? So, example here is Dota 2, no? So Dota actually has a loot box mechanics, but it's really not that bad, no? At least comparing with other gacha mechanics in other games. But the loot box mechanics in Dota is like this, no? So there are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Usually this is seven choices, seven possible items that you will get. So you will buy one trove or something, or one cachet or something, and then you will get a random one. Now the problem is if you want a specific one, let's say you want this one from Rubik. No? So let's say you want this one from Rubik. You do not like the others. So in essence, to get Rubik or Rubik's costume, you have to buy 7 or 6, maybe in this case. You have to buy 6 to actually really get Rubik's dress. Now the idea with Dota is that once you get something, you will not get it again. Now the problem is if if it can be repeatable, so that's really dangerous. No, that's dangerous. So if repeatable, if maybe you've already gotten costume from this, no, uh OD, Outward Devourer. If you already got his costume, and then you bought again, you open one again, and then you got his costume again, that's really kind of frustrating. But I believe that's not the case, no? So if you already got one, you will not get it again. So at least in this case, you just have to buy 6 to get the Rubik's costume. But that's still 6 more than one. That's 5 more than one still, because well, in that case, you are just wanting to buy Rubik's dress. So yeah, no. In that case, the real price of Rubik's costume is the price of 6. Yeah. So that's how it works. And like what I said, this is actually even better than most system out there. Like for example, EA Sports. No, so we do have here FIFA, Star Wars, Battlefront 2. I believe this BF2. Yeah. Um, they actually don't want to call their gacha or their loot box. They don't want to call it loot box, no. According to them, yeah, this from EA Sports. We don't do loot box. We do surprise mechanics. So they basically created a new terms. That's why. So people wouldn't call it loot box mechanics. So they want to call it surprise mechanics, and they are actually grilled for this, no? The community, the internet grilled them for this because this is actually treating the customers like idiots, no? Anyway, so yeah, I believe this is from FIFA. This image is from FIFA. I'm not really sure, no. I don't play FIFA that much. I play 2K more. There's also something like this in 2K, obviously, in NBA 2K. Yeah, and last, Beatstar. No, Beatstar is a rhythm game. It's, I think, one of the better rhythm game out there that actually incorporates traditional songs, or not necessarily traditional. That might sound wrong, no? But songs that are in the billboards. Yeah. Because most decent rhythm games have their own songs, no? Like Saitus, like Demo, etc. So they do have their own songs. But BitStar, the songs here are the normal songs that we normally listen to uh, Spotify or something. So BitStar also have this song box. So you complete the box, as you can see here, 0/3. You complete the box and you get a random song. You get a random rock song. You get a random alternative song. This can go higher. 0/3. This three counter. This is just the early game. Um, I reach here that you have to complete 25. No, so it takes a real long time to complete 25. But anyway, so let's continue. So these are all gacha mechanics. No, these are all gacha mechanics, and we're moving on the next slide. So yeah, basically gacha mechanics is gambling, but not really. So let's try to make it a bit clear. So gacha is gambling essentially, in a sense that you can cash in. You can cash in, and you can actually use your real life money. You want to get a random character or item. One of the best examples for this is Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact have a lot of players and a lot of paying players. So gamers are actually spending money for it to get the characters that they wanted. Did I already spend money on Genshin Impact? I did, no, but not for pulling, no. I only spend money for other stuff, no, like for progression sense, no. But I don't really spend, no, for pulling, no. That's bad business. But anyway, a lot of people are doing it, no. So it is gambling in a sense. You get the thing that you want and you spend money. Some can get something just by spending just by spending a few bucks here and there, but some might reach thousands of bucks or something. That's how it works, no? Some are lucky, some are not. No? Although, of course, not so much. No, in most games, here in most games with gacha, players can farm. No, what do we mean by farm? When we say farm, you get something while playing. You get something while doing something. So let's say you are running, you're playing an adventure. You repeat that stage all over again, and you'll get something. Maybe you'll get gold. Maybe you'll get a gem. Maybe you'll get something or whatever. So basically, in most games with gacha, players can farm currency as they play the game. So probably the best example for this is Seven Knights. Although I don't know if anyone is even familiar of Seven Knights. In Seven Knights, by maxing the level of your character, you get a reward of the premium currency. So back then, people are actually leaving their phones running all throughout, even while they sleep, and they get a lot of the premium currency. And well, it's still not enough because when it comes to these games, of course, we can farm currency. We also have this notion power creep. No? So power creep, they will release a new character. They will release harder stages, and then the players have to get that character to actually proceed through the game. And to get that character, you essentially need that currency that you are farming. And with for some games with a bit too fast pacing, um, it's quite difficult for the players to catch up. And in that regard, some people are calling that uh, pay to win games. Yeah, pay to win games. Anyway, so in this case, we're just pointing out that, well, in some cases, players can farm currency as they play the game. So you can choose not to cash in. You can choose not to put your money in the game, no? But you have to play. You have to do something, no? And in that regard, those games that I was talking about, uh, that uh, wherein you can farm currency, those games are known as F2P, friendly games. What is F2P? F2P is free to play. This is the opposite of P2W or pay to win. No? So F2P, these are free to play games. Some games are so F2P friendly that it is possible for the player to get all the premium characters or items just by playing a lot. Some games they do not even require you to play a lot. They just need you to play regularly, and you will get something. You will get every characters. That's how forgiving some gacha games are. Now you might be wondering, why are they doing that? Why are they rewarding non-paying players? Well, so people will play. No? The more people that are playing the game, the more paying people might come in. No? Of course, paying people will stop playing a game with no players. Obviously, if they will, if there will be no community for that game, why still spend on it? No? So that's the idea behind that. So developers, game publishers, etc. That's the idea behind this F2P friendly model. But anyway, so let's continue. Um, so yeah, no. So personally, so why do I play games with gacha anyway? So these are 5 reasons. So most are decent actually. Most are decent. Gameplay variety, as you heard earlier, I talked about. There's a tower defense gacha like Arc Knights. Guardian Tales has actually varied gameplays. Uh, the gameplay of Guardian Tales is similar to the old. Where could I compare it? To the old Game Boy games, no, to the old Game Boy games, that are I forgot the term, no? But anyway, so it has varied gameplay. Um, Genshin Impact is an open world gacha, and not a lot of open world games are out there. No? It's quite rare because the amount of resources to accomplish that sort of game is daunting. Um, What are the others? Of course, turn-based games. There are a lot of variations in turn-based games, and most of them are gacha. So yeah, no, gameplay variety. Art are mostly good. No, if you look at the art of Epic 7, or maybe the popular one now is Counter Side. If you're playing that, art are mostly good. No? Competition is there. This is also the thing. The trend in gaming right now is actually gacha. No, competition is there, so decent ones keep popping up. I usually look at Reddit. I usually look at different websites, maybe YouTube, whatever. Um, and I constantly look for the newest gacha that will pop up out there. No? And yeah, I believe the next big one that's gonna come up is actually a Black Clover gacha. So some people are saying that's decent. But anyway, by the way, most gacha games are actually not decent, so there's not much high hope about it. But like what I said, competition is there, so eventually decent ones will pop up. Anyway, another thing, most do not require much time. Despite the grind thing that I was saying earlier, most gacha games do not require much time. Basically, this is the mobile gaming trend. Uh, they make you play every day, but not 3 hours or more a day, because the idea of mobile gaming is you play casually, you play for a short time, you play for burst of time. This is something that you play in your lunch break. This is something that you play uh, when you are in transportation. So just a 30 minutes, 20 minutes, a bit, that would be enough. That's the idea behind mobile gaming, and it's kind of attractive for our current time, where we do a lot of things. But anyway, another thing, of course, good IPs are into gacha now. Um, Maybe you are a fan of something, you are part of a certain fandom, you will most likely find a gacha game for your fandom. No, maybe you like Naruto. Of course, there's a gacha game for Naruto. One Piece. Um, Maybe let's move on from anime. Maybe you like Star Wars. Maybe you like Harry Potter. There are gacha games for those. Maybe you like Marvel. No? Maybe you're like DC. No, there are gacha games for those. So yeah, no. Good IPs are into gacha, and maybe the reason for that is there's something to collect in those IPs. Like in Harry Potter, maybe you are collecting magics. Maybe you are collecting uh, herbs. In Naruto, you are collecting different ninjas. In One Piece, you are collecting different pirates. In Final Fantasy, actually, other than the characters, you may be collecting weapons. So yeah, no. The idea behind gacha is actually collecting something. You collect, you level them up, and yeah, that's that. No? And that's why we're moving on to progression, because uh, the idea behind games is progression. If you're not progressing, a game is actually kind of boring. No? So there should be an actual progression in the game. There you should feel that progression. No? Actually, that's one of the reasons. That's why I'm playing Path of Exile right now. No, one of the best progression system I've seen. Um, so progression feels nice in gacha games, and yeah, this the same with every game. You do something, you upgrade something, and suddenly you hit more numbers. Um, so yeah, no, progression feels nice. And the last one, min maxing. Um, Different gamers have different goals in their games. No, that's why some people actually do like MOBAs, because well, they want to dumpster other teams, they want to work with other people, and they want to dumpster other teams. No, so the idea behind MOBA is winning against others. No, and the other gamers like this better, min maxing. Min maxing is making your character, or making your something the best, no, or uh ramming through the content in that regard. No, so min maxing is actually maxing the stats or the capabilities of your character. And how about in gacha games? Well, in gacha games you have a lot of characters, so you play the game to min max. Well, how about you min max 50 more characters? So that's the exciting thing, at least for me. That's the exciting thing about gacha. Actually, I don't really play Fire Emblem that much right now, but whenever I visit Fire Emblem, I try to level them all to 40. No? That's the max level, 40. Max level outside the premium something. No? It's kind of blurry right now, no, when it comes to Fire Emblem. But normally the max level in Fire Emblem is 40. So that's my goal. I want to level them all up to 40. And that's that. Sometimes I do stories, sometimes not. So I don't really play it that much. But anyway, so these are the reasons why I do play games with gacha. And let's start. So the topic is the good, the bad, and the ugly. So now let's start with the good. So now let's do some philosophical musings. First one, the good. It goes with the human telos, no? So what is the end of being human, no? The meaning of telos is end or goal, no? So that's the idea behind telos. It goes with the human telos. Later on, uh, we'll look at that. It restructures gambling. No? Wait, are we not trying to suddenly normalize gambling? Wait, we'll look at that later on. Games do survive. I think this is one of the best ones, one of the best reasons out there, because of this gacha mechanics. Games do survive. No, um, there are a lot of cases wherein different games actually die. No, and different publishers, different developers actually do not want to go into game creation because it fails. No, most of them fails. But yeah, no, because of gacha mechanics, games survive. But what good does it do to me, the player, though? Well, you are the player, no? If you don't really care about the game, well, it won't affect you, no? But some people, some gamers, do actually care about the games they play. So um, that's something. All right. So it goes with the human telos, no? So what am I for? Who am I for? No? What should I for? No, these are some questions that uh, puzzled the human society ever since. So this is a question that was posed even by Aristotle and the others before him. So the idea with this question is looking at the human goal, no, the human life. What should it be? But however, we don't really want to answer that. No, those questions are heavy. No, those questions are actually, if you really think about it, it's a bit depressing, no? Especially if you are in the darkest time of your life. If you are in a moment of your life wherein nothing's really working, the reality strikes you. The reality is bringing you down. Uh, yeah, no, there are certain moments like that. No? These are questions, but yeah, no, these are questions still. No, this knock to us time and time again. Sometimes even causing frustration, depression, etc. So, in this regard, actually, we can make it artificial. No, so gaming provides an artificial telos. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Well, most might say that this is a bad thing because you are escaping the question, but who cares if you want to feel nice, no? You do know that there are questions like this. You do know that you should be answering these questions, but at the end of the day, you have to survive, no? You cannot just you cannot just sit down, lie down, and think about these questions that may be unanswerable. So, yeah, no, a gaming provides an artificial telos, no? You can reposition yourself, no? You reposition yourself as if you are not in real life, but in your characters in the game world. You create or follow goals for them, be satisfying, could be not. Still, you experience something. That's the idea behind that. No? You experience something, and perhaps you may get something, no, for the real life. For example, no, I played gacha games for a long time, and I know that I should not spend even in real life. No, I think I have a quote there later on. The hardest gacha game that we could play is our life. No, it's the hardest gacha game, and it's kind of ridiculous because you only get one try, and it's unfair. Uh, you do not get the daily quest, and if you do not really do anything, well, you will suffer. No, so yeah, no. Gacha game and Demon tell us, no, we can have this artificial telos, we can have this artificial goal, artificial ends, and somehow we are achieving something, and it's kind of nice. Although some people get drowned in it, and it's bad in that regard. This is just supposed to be a reliever or something. No? All right. Next, um, the gambling problem. No? So gambling is bad, of course. It's really bad. But of course, we do know that there are gambling institutions in our world right now that are legal, like casinos, etc. No, um, I think they exist aside from the political matters behind it, aside from the conspiracies behind it. I believe the reason why those still persist is that it is in our human nature to take satisfaction from victory around risk. You want to have certain victory around risk. You always want that. That's why even in our nature, uh, we would kill, we would ruin others, and that's victory. No? That's glory. No, even Thomas Hobbes said that. No, um, the human nature is competition, diffidence, and glory. No, competition because we want to compare ourselves to others. Diffidence because we want to defend ourselves. No, we want to be not offended. And glory, of course. We want prestige. We want to be up there. We want to be high up. And those things, those incorporate risk. And every time there are risks in the things we do, there's more satisfaction after it. And gambling provides that. No, no matter how small or big you won, no matter how small, as long as you won, it's kind of satisfying. Um, does that make you bad? I don't believe so. I don't believe so. No, not necessarily. Um, and the thing with gacha games, well, it makes it artificial. You used one ticket, you used a single currency to pull something, and in just one moment you got the rarest thing out there. And some people will find that satisfying. Yes, it's petty, no? I mean, gambling is petty, but it's satisfying. That's the only point behind it. Satisfying, petty or not, it's satisfying. So that's the idea behind it. So the gambling thing that we are supposed to be seeking, it becomes artificial in this regard. So maybe that's nice. Well, let's move on. No? Um, I think this is the best one because rarely that we look at the game developers side. Um, I don't know how you are doing it, but I know most people are actually pirating the games. No? I mean, um, I know how to do it, so I can definitely do it anytime. No? So how will they profit if people are just gonna pirate the game? And of course, developers know it. No, developers know it. Publishers know it. The people behind creating games know that people are just gonna pirate their game. That's why the internet is actually laughing ridiculously at people who want to protect their own product to not be pirated because it's so easy to pirate things on the internet. Um, and game publishers are actually aware of it. So their actual solution is just to make the game free, and they will put microtransactions behind it. By the way, microtransaction is the umbrella term for gacha gaming. So, or gacha mechanics. Gacha mechanics is under the umbrella term of microtransaction. Microtransaction, these are transactions micro within the game. No? So yeah, no. With gacha mechanics, well actually they can profit, no? They can profit. Gacha made more games last longer. It also paid for jobs normally not usually paid for much. Like voice actors, actresses, they are getting paid for these games, no? Classical musicians, this I was really happy for this because um if you're a classical musician, um maybe you are familiar with the idea that there's not many jobs out there for you, no? Because the competition is tight and the opportunity is so much less. And it's nice because in the game Genshin Impact, they actually hire uh, uh, cool orchestras to play the music for them. And it's really nice watching different classical musicians uh, play the sounds of whatever. Yeah. So yeah, it's actually good for the game. It's actually good for the developers side. But now let's look at the bad side. So we look at the good side. Now let's look at the bad side. So there's a lot. Let's limit it to three. Number one, of course, it's bad for the games. This should be obvious. I don't know if it's obvious for you. For the gamers, it should be obvious for them. It's just bad for the games. That's it. No, it reduced the face of gaming into just pulling and well, gambling. Most become jobs. This the repercussion of gacha game. Most become jobs. Without pay, you grind for the currencies so you can pull. So that's the idea. And lastly, paywall, grind wall, time gate. So the developers want to keep you in there, so expect that progressing requires much effort. And these are the effort: paywall, grind wall, time gate. We'll look at that later, but first let's look at the nature of gaming. So really, what's the nature of gaming? um, the sense of achievement is there, the sense of interaction is there, the sense of I believe those are the only two. No? So uh, you interact with something, you do something, and then you get a certain sense of achievement. And the gacha mechanics in games, it's bad because um, it transforms games, it transforms the gameplay into winning something via gamble, via random or something. So people now are playing games to earn currency, to pull something, to get something. No? So that essentially becomes the game. The gameplay becomes secondary, which is kind of bad because at that point, developers may not even give an effort to actually creating a gameplay. And this is actually happening right now. Most gacha games that you will see out there have no actual gameplay, have no actual mechanics, um, have no actual meta. No? And that is important for the game. That is what we originally look for. But now, if the main thing a thing has if the main thing a game has going on is pulling something or what, no, the randomize something is bad because yeah, no, suddenly gameplay becomes secondary. So before everything is achievable by a gameplay, uh except costumes, today you gotta pay or pull to get even the basic ones. So for example, no, if the core gameplay of a game is PvP, wherein you have to fight with other players, and then you have to make your characters a bit stronger. And if the only way to make your characters a bit stronger is by paying, then it's really bad because you have to pay to get these characters. No? So yeah, no. Um, anyway, let's move on. No. So it's really bad for the nature of gaming. So that's the idea behind a gacha. It becomes a job, no? Becomes job. Actually, this is typical for most games. Most games are grindy. It's typical for the most MMORPG. I remember back then, my high school friends, they are not really sleeping just to get a single level from Run Online. Um, so why are games grindy in this regard? Well, the developers want to keep the players in place. They want you to keep playing it because if it's not grindy and you bust through all content right away, then you essentially finish the game. And if everyone have already finished the game, then the game is done. So they don't really want that, and they need time to develop more content. They need time to develop more things, no, more story, more areas, etc. No, that's why they make the game more grindy. No, but in other games, you can actually stop there. No, it's a choice. No, you can grind for one, then maybe later not anymore. But there's a certain force behind gacha games that kind of push you there, kind of force you to be there. And that's the idea behind dailies. No? Most gacha games do have dailies. These are daily quests. No? In daily quests, most of the time, daily quests rewards you with the premium currency, and that's the only way you can get a premium currency to later on pull something. And in most games, yeah, no, that's the only way. So in most games, the premium currency, for you to get premium currency, you only have to rely on daily quest. And that means you have to log in on that game every day. So it's kind of bad because it ritualizes you to do something. It basically makes you a robot. It mechanizes you to do this thing again and again. And maybe you've been doing it for a month, maybe you've been doing it for 2 months. It becomes routinary. And if it becomes routinary, at the point will come wherein it's hard to stop, even if it doesn't make sense anymore. So yeah, no, yeah, it becomes a job basically, and it has no pay. So most have no actual gameplay. So you just grind, you log in every day, you do your daily quest, and then you quit, and then the next day follow, you'll do it the same again. It becomes a job because you are logging in, you are keeping the game afloat by just logging in because the statistics of the game will say it still has players. Google Play Store will see that it still has players, but you are not really gaining anything. So you're doing a job without pay. That's that's it. No, you're doing a job without satisfaction maybe you will be satisfied after 2 years when you have finally reached that amount that you need for you to pull. And then maybe after 2 years you are still incapable of getting it because once again this is by chance, no, this is RNG, this is random, no. So yeah, no, games do become jobs in this regard. And lastly, this is probably what I hate the most because for me, the good thing with me, even playing gacha games, I can easily quit games, no. So it's lagging a bit, no. So I can easily quit games, no? So games don't become jobs for me because I can easily quit them. I've seen many games that are boring, so I drop them right away. But if the progression is unappealing, I also drop them, no? And this is what I hate the most because some games do have the potential to be okay, but um, the aesthetics are nice, the gameplay are nice, but the progression is something that pushes you to the limit. So I don't want that. So progression, what do you mean by progression? Your character development, the 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 progression of your character's strengths, abilities, etc. So this is just you basically coming the from your characters having no capability to run through content to run through the content, and then the opposite one wherein you will be overpowered and then you will go through content as if it was a cakewalk, such and such. So progression is something like that. Basically, you're leveling, you're upgrading, etc., etc. But this is hindered, most usually, this is hindered by walls or gates to keep players from finishing the game. They don't want you to finish the game. This is not exactly true with actually with Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. That's why I really like that game. Um, I reached the end game for that specific game. I reached the end game in just a month, I believe, no? In just 1 month, I've already reached the end game. So it's really nice, no? So right now, I think it's the only game that I am in the end game. Because in most gacha games, because of this gating, walling, because of these things, uh, the end games in most gacha games are actually hard to reach. They're actually hard to reach. Anyway, so what is a paywall? When we say paywall, you have to pay to get through it. So these are specific moments in the game wherein your character apparently is not too strong enough to handle a specific stage. So in that regard, you have to buy more stuff, you have to pay. So that's paywall. Um, those are red flags. Paywall. Most people do not really care for games like this with paywall, so they really stop playing it. Um, except for some people who have so much money and who are, I don't know, maybe they are they are forced to play that game, or maybe they are played to play that game. Anyway, grind wall, time gate is much more prevalent. Grind wall, of course, you have to grind. No, why? What do you mean by grind? By the way, grind is doing the same thing over and over again uh, to level yourself up, to upgrade yourself up, to get more currency or to get more golds or something. So yeah, grind is something like that. So they want you to have the app open for most time, and this increases their stats, more revenue, also more players, more attractive to sponsors and ads. Lastly, is time gate, also known as stamina gate. No, most games do have stamina, and this runs up sometimes fast or sometimes not, but that essentially signals the time gate in the game, wherein uh, your progress will be up to here in this day because the stamina is only, let's say, only 100, only 150, and if you have used all that already, then you're done. Well, you can buy stamina. And there we go. We go back to paywall, no? So time gate essentially they limit your play time basically, or they limit your progress each day. So yeah, no. Um, progression, no. So those are the bad things. But now let's move on to the ugly ones. So these are the more dire. So this is where it becomes alarming. So we go back to gambling, no? Gambling normalization. Um, while the artificial flavor is quite good, the mechanics may still result to gambling normalization. It's actually really bad, actually. The normalization of gambling is really bad. Another thing is sunk cost fallacy. A lot of people are falling in this fallacy. So we will look at that later on. Gacha games, they feed, they profit on addiction. So that's that. And lastly, this one. The children are prone. Um, these games are targeted to kids and the gambling candidates. There's not much distinction. No, there's not much distinction between this. I mean, the kids are not entirely banned on the Play Store. The gamblers are not entirely classified on Play Store. So there's not much distinction between them. Somehow they are mostly fused as one. So most of the time, children, at the same time gamblers, are targeted. So in this case, they are fused as one. They're basically one, no? The children and the gamblers, and it's kind of ugly because if you're gonna think of your children, or maybe you were gonna think of your little brother, little sister, and they will see an advertisement that's targeted for them, but also kind of attracts them to do gambling. Um, yeah. Anyway, so let's look at the ugly sides of gacha games. So let's start with normalization of gambling. Of course, should it be? Should it be not? Why not? Of course, it should not be. This should be obvious enough because we will look at the unethical side of gambling. The unethical side of gambling is that it is generally sustained. This generally sustained by pathological investment of vulnerable consumers. So they are getting something out of the vulnerables. That's the idea behind gambling. Um, maybe the gamblers will say that they are not vulnerables or what. Yeah, no, why not? But still, vulnerable people out there do exist. So who are these vulnerable? No, dangers. This is what I said here. Dangers to at-risk groups. The vulnerable people are those at-risk groups. They are the less affluent people, people with not much money on them, and people with mental health issues. Some can easily fall to gambling addiction because of their mental health issues. And gambling addiction, actually, I'm not really sure, but gambling addiction itself is a mental health issue. So there's a reason why casinos need license. No, they have to be regulated. This gambling has to be regulated. The mere point that there are casinos out there, it doesn't mean that it is already normalized. The point that casinos are being regulated is because gambling is not normal. And right now, we don't have much regulation on the gacha games out there. So the mere fact that these gacha games are easily available in Play Store, in Apple Store, and easily available by anyone, everyone, not only children, no, not only children, but the elderly, the people with mental health issues, they're not much regulated. In this case, since they are available in those mediums, it has become normal. And it's bad in that regard. It's ugly, actually, in that regard, because many people are subject to it. Um, so yeah, no, it's basically imagining that if the government stop regulating casinos, no, there's a reason why those are regulated. This is bad. No, gambling is bad. No, so yeah, no. Perhaps one point of action the government can take is that uh, those have to be regulated, no? The gacha games have to be regulated. I mean, other countries have did that already. Later on, we will look at that. But anyway, so these are the ugly, one of the ugly sides of gacha game. And let's move on because we're looking at the sunk cost fallacy. So what is sunk cost? No, sunk costs, these are the expenditures that you have already spent spent on one thing. Let's say you have already thrown $100, 100 peso, maybe 1,000 on something, no? Let's let's go to Axie, no? So maybe you play Axie, or maybe in general NFTs, no? So you bought into something, a specific NFT game, no? And then yeah, no, you already spent 1,000 on it. Maybe you already spent 5,000 on it, and you think that you should continue playing it, you should continue doing it to gain more. So you have to continue investing on it to get more, such and such. That's sunk cost fallacy, no? Sunk costs, those are the fallen costs. Those are the things that you have already spent. Somehow they justify expenditures. They do not, no? Those are already lost, no? You cannot get them back, no? You only get them back by losing more. No, that's the idea behind this. No, sunk cost fallacy. The idea behind sunk cost fallacy is throwing good money after bad, while refusing to cut the losses. No, throwing good money. Actually, that's the reason why I don't play games with NFTs, especially if they require payment beforehand. So I don't really want that. So sunk cost fallacy, sunk cost, this is not necessarily just about when one starts to cash in real money. No, this also pertains to when one starts to commit time and effort to a game. No, so the former leads to gambling addiction, and the latter leads to making a day job out of nothing and getting nothing. So this is what I was talking about earlier. Um, you cannot quit a game; it becomes a job because of the sunk cost fallacy. You have already invested your time on it, so you are adamant on stopping what you're doing, no, when you can. Oh, but you can't because of this sunk cost fallacy. You think that you have already spent time on it, you've already committed something on it, so you have to continue doing it even if it's not fun anymore, even if it's meaningless anymore. So yeah, that's sunk cost fallacy. And the last one is this, no, of course children are targeted. Most gacha games are cartoony. Most gameplay are also for children. Um, you will see this in the ads, no, in Facebook or in whatever or wherever else you may see a certain ad for gacha game. It's actually kind of predatory, no. Let's start with this. The ads well targeted at children are also predatory. Ads right now are too direct, no, showing how characters become too strong by spending money, showing comparisons between not paying and paying. It's kind of predatory, no. It's really predatory right now. And we're not even including the ads wherein they show a different game, no? They show a different game, and when you downloaded it, you open it, it's a very different one, no? That's beside the point. No? That's another story. So there were cases where children were using their parents' phone. So the children were using their parents' phone. They are playing a game, and then suddenly they put their parents in debt right away. No, um, fortunately, Play Store and others now have the setup for refunds. No, there's a refund thing in Play Store now. No, but can you imagine the children are capable of that? No? Are capable of spending that much easily on a gacha game. So in this case, children develop an early gambling behavior, and this is really bad. No, addiction is never a good thing. Children becoming addicts is another thing, and it's way too much, no. And yeah, it happens, no, it really happens. So that's why the parents today, they really protect their child from uh, playing via mobile, playing via their cell phones. Most children right now do have their cell phone. I remember when I was a kid, I don't even have a cell phone, no. I would borrow my mom's phone just to play Snake or Space Impact, and that's it. No, and I am allowed to play it maybe 30 minutes a day or 1 hour a day. And that's it. No, but right now, almost everyone do have their own. No, children to have their own phones, children to have their own mobiles, and uh, their games. It's there. No, it's easily available. No? So, the parents really have to protect their children. No, and not only the children, no, even the teenagers and above, no, even the adults, they maybe they also have to be protected because, well, this actually predatory, no. the cases I've read in Reddit, in other sources, the cases I've read, they're pretty scary, no? Some people are in debt for thousands of dollars, hundred thousands of dollars. So it's really quite scary, no? So these are the government actions, no? Like what I said earlier, some government actually did something, no, to somehow regulate these gacha games because they are quite dangerous to the society, no? Japan has the biggest community, I believe, the biggest community of gacha games and gacha gamers. Um, so in 2012, they completely banned the idea of complete gacha. So complete gacha is gone now. Complete gacha, in complete gacha, you have to complete sets, no? So you have to pull for sets, and you can get something repeatedly, no? So some people are spending way too much complete just to complete a set, no? If you played Grand Chase before, the gacha in Grand Chase is actually complete gacha. And in Japan, it's completely banned right now. In 2016, Grand Blue Fantasy started Spark System. No, so Grand Blue Fantasy, the public was outraged against Grand Blue Fantasy because Grand Blue Fantasy, there's a certain character that is almost impossible to get. No, so people have already spent thousands of dollars, hundred thousands of dollars, and still are not getting the very character. So it's kind of dubious. No, so Grand Blue Fantasy started the Spark system. Spark system or PT system is uh, in 300 pulls or something, you can get one. No? So after doing 300, you can choose one and get one. So that's the idea behind Spark or PT. And most games right now do have this. They have Spark or PT right now. So other than Japan, now many countries do require games. No? They require gacha games to publish the rates. No? As you will see on the image, this the rates in Fire Emblem Heroes. No, 5 star focus 3.75, 5 star is 3.75, 4 star is 35.43, etc., etc. No? And so there's a lot of ugly things in gacha games. Why am I still playing it? Should I play despite those ugly shenanigans? So these are the things that you should note now before you jump in. One thing, of course, this is the most important one. You can always jump out. You can always jump out. Once you started a game, you can always jump out. F2P all the way. No, you can play games for not paying anything. No, I played Genshin Impact for I believe 2 years before actually spending something, and right now I think I only spent 500 pesos for it. No, so you can be free to play all the way. No, it's okay to spend. By the way, no, it's okay to spend, but do it to support the people behind the game. That's your motivation. You want to help the people behind the game. It's not because you want to pull something. It's not because you want to gain something out of it. No, because that kind of thinking is addicting. No, um, another thing, find your game before you commit. There's a lot of games out there. Not only we're not talking about the gacha games, we're talking about all games. No, find your game before you commit. There's a lot of games out there, and some games might fit your style, your likes, and yeah, no, because it might happen to you that you are playing a game and you're not happy playing it, and it's sad. It's kind of sad. um Also, just chill with the games. Chill with it, no? You're currently playing life. That's the hardest gacha game out there, no? So at the end of the day, life is the game that we are playing, and probably the more that we should focus on, the most we should focus on. So yeah, no, games are there, no, video games are there as our side games, no, it's our side life. And at the end of it all, we still have to deal with this I don't know, this imbalance and highly power creep reality of ours, no, this game that we are playing called life, no? So yeah, no, these are the things about the gacha gaming, the good, the bad, and the ugly of gacha games, and that should end uh my lecture, no, for gacha games. So thank you. Stay F2P.